Coming up on East Coast News, we have a set of exclusive stories regarding issues that have long plagued inner cities and low-income neighborhoods. Our expert journalists will report on several revealing stories ranging from topics such as teen pregnancies to gang violence. East Coast News starts right now.
Hi, I'm Celine.
And I'm Quinton.
And this is East Coast News. Tonight we'll be talking about the cycle of teenage pregnancy that has been found to be an almost never-ending loop among generations. But Vivian Rivera, a mother that became pregnant at just age 13, is taking a step to break the cycle for her family. Rivera comes from a family of teenage mothers, and her own mother had her at just age 18. As she looks at her 7-year-old daughter, she decides that that isn't the lifestyle she wants for her. Rivera dropped out of William Penn Senior High School and suffered heavy judgment by her peers for seeming to throw her life away at such an early age. Rivera kept her baby, and although she did drop out of school, she now attends ELECT at age 20. ELECT is a program teaching education leading to employment and career training in Crispus Attucks Association in York. This program is teaching her trade, but more importantly, the program is teaching her parenting skills, money management, and sex ed that she can in turn provide to her daughter to guide her off the track of teenage pregnancy. However, many wonder if this education is enough to break the cycle of teenage pregnancy in any family. Rivera is determined to have an honest, open communication and be her daughter's biggest supporter, in addition to forwarding the education she learned from the ELECT program. Despite an extremely high amount of teenage pregnancies, especially in the poorer cities of America, the cycle can be broken. Teenage pregnancy is not inevitable, and having children when ready is a key part in helping those who feel stuck in the cycle live a successful life of their own before being bound to a child, or possibly ending up abandoning that child to live in a single parent or foster home. Much of the poverty present in society is due to much too early pregnancies that many young girls face. Another child means another mouth to feed, another closet of clothes, another bedroom, education to pay for, while still maintaining enough money to support the other family members, which ultimately drives a family further into debt and poverty, rather than seeming for them to save money and to live a better life. If more of the teenage pregnancy cycles were broken and girls had children at more appropriate ages where they could provide for the child, then hopefully we would see a reduction in poverty levels and the common occurrence of single-parent families or the children in foster care would not be as common anymore.
Another common theme of these low-income neighborhoods is concentrated poverty. New York City schools have recently emerged as focuses for desegregation because of the large amount of concentrated poverty, and a recent report highlights how much work is yet to be done. About a third of the city's roughly 600 middle schools serve overwhelmingly poor students, and more than half of the city's low-income adolescents are clustered in just a quarter of middle schools, according to the New York City Budget Office. Low levels of academic achievement in schools with highly concentrated poverty have long plagued urban school districts, and decades of interventions have not produced any clear solutions. Over the past year in particular, parents and activists, and as well as city officials, have pointed to segregation in middle schools as a contributor to the persistent achievement gap between white, Asian, and middle-class students and their poorer peers, who are often Black and Hispanic. Researchers have found significant opportunity and achievement gaps between students at schools with high levels of low-income students and those with a wealthier population. Several of the 25 middle schools identified as having the lowest number of poor students, schools where fewer than 17% of the student body come from low-income homes, send a sizable portion of their students to the city's specialized high schools, which require a test for admission. At least 20% of students at 5 of those schools were offered admission to a specialized high school. None of the schools with the smallest populations of poor students are in the Bronx, but 22 of the 25 middle schools with student bodies that are at least 93% poor are there. Several of these schools are among the city's worst performing. 8 are in the city's renewal program for struggling schools, and 2 have been closed by the Department of Education for poor performance since 2014. Solutions to this ongoing issue include a more integrated school system which could help combat the ills of housing segregation by offering children early opportunities to travel outside their neighborhoods and meet peers from other parts of the city.
Thank you, Quentin Celine, for those stories. I'm Laura here today with a special story. The U.S. Census Bureau reports that there are currently 24 million American children that live in a single-parent household. That is 34% of all children, and this statistic has been going up since the 1960s. There have been many arguments over if children can be as successful coming from a single-parent home as they can when coming from a home with 2 parents. I decided to interview several teenagers who have lived with just one parent to get the answers. First, I spoke to Megan Abbott about life with just her mom. Her parents got divorced when she was just 4, and she's been living with her mom and 2 siblings for 12 years. Since her dad does not pay child support, Megan's mom has to work 2 jobs to support the family economically. With her mom working lots of hours, Megan has to do the cooking and the cleaning in the house. She also has to care for her younger brother and sister. Megan says that being raised by one parent has taught her a lot about independence and has helped her mature at a very quick rate. However, when her mom isn't around, Megan worries about what her younger sister is up to, as she is often out with friends. Since her mom cannot always be at home, she cannot keep Megan's sister from getting into trouble. Another struggle is living with a single mother is the lack of a good father figure. However, Megan's Uncle Derek often takes her and her brother and sister on fishing trips, and also takes her brother to baseball games. Without Uncle Derek, the Abbott kids would not have these father-like experiences. While Megan worries about how she is going to afford college, many great teachers have helped inspire her to pursue her dream of becoming a lawyer. Overall, Megan says being raised by one parent has had its struggles, but she would not want to be raised by anyone else. Another story we have is of Thomas Bach, a track athlete who was raised by his father. When Thomas was just 2, his mother unfortunately died, while his father has struggled in raising him. Thomas has excelled in multiple fields. He won state in 200-meter track and also is first in his class. His father has worked tirelessly at his job and has spent as much time with Thomas as he can. But also, Thomas's ministers at his church and his school coaches have also helped to inspire him and lead him to success. They have taught him the value of hard work and integrity. Thomas says these 3 influences have helped put him on the right track, the track towards greatness. The conclusion of the story is, growing up in a single-parent home can be full of obstacles, but having a community of support can lead to a fulfilled potential. Now we're going to Julia for this next story.
Thanks, Laura. Now, drugs have gripped the lives of New Yorkers here in the Bronx for decades. Marijuana, cocaine, and heroin all got a turn as drug of choice in the city. Crack cocaine is the most recent hype in the South Bronx, where drug gangs are most concentrated. There's so much money to be made on this drug that gangs are rapidly expanding and sucking in anyone that will submit. Unfortunately, over 800,000 adolescents fall victim to the dangerous drug game every year. In this case, a 15-year-old boy named Jackson Vega got involved in drugs at age 11. Despite his older brother's warnings, he was recruited by a gang here in the South Bronx. Jackson was interested in getting involved in what they call the hustle in order to make a little extra cash. He then developed substance abuse habits and got into trouble with the law many times. He had been in and out of jail 7 times between the ages 12 and 15. On Tuesday, Jackson was found guilty for manslaughter and is now serving a life sentence for the murder of a police officer. He will be spending the rest of his life in the Vernon C. Bain Correctional Facility because of the choices he made during adolescence. Although Jackson declined to be interviewed for this part, he did mention that living in constant fear throughout his teens and young adulthood was no way to live, and it wasn't worth it to ruin his life so early. He asked me to advise anyone watching to stay away from the tempting game of drug trafficking. Although the money may be a very appealing aspect, the detrimental health and psychological effects are not worth it. Many only get involved in drug trafficking when they believe their friends and those around them are involved as well. I encourage communities to collectively disapprove drug trafficking, as well as stage interventions for young adults that you think may be struggling with substance abuse. The almost 61% jump in murder rate is something that can easily be prevented by diffusing peer pressure and encouraging other hobbies. How these drugs will affect adolescents in the future is still yet to be determined, but now Addie is going to expand on youth gangs and how drug abuse can lead to violence.
Increased instances of juvenile violent crimes reflect an alarming new strategy by Denver street gangs in order to arm young recruits with guns and have them carry out vendettas against other gangs, including fatal shootings, as the laws protect juvenile killers from serving lengthy prison times, prosecutors say. Adult and older gang members are becoming more and more sophisticated. They realize that younger members don't have the same severe consequences as they do. The guns are handed off to the younger kids, and teenage killers and robbers are adjudicated in juvenile court, spending a maximum of 5 to 7 years serving a sentence in the Colorado Division of Youth Services facility, depending on their age. It may be possible, however, if a teen is tried in adult court, that they could initially go to youth services and later be transferred to an adult prison to serve out a lengthier sentence. In 2015, 50 juveniles were charged with illegal gun possession. This number only grew by 37% to 79 gun possessions arrests in 2017. In 2018, Denver is on track to reach about 90 arrests. Murders committed by juveniles increased from 3 in 2015 to 5 in 2017 and are expected to reach about 6 in 2018. Juvenile aggravated robberies increased 29% from 34 in 2015 to 44 in 2017 and are on course to reach about 35 this year, according to statistics. Unfortunately, there have been several juvenile homicides. We've seen an increase in aggravated robberies, and the numbers ebb and flow. A recent shooting at DSST Cole Middle School has drawn the attention of juvenile crime. It's absolutely horrifying. It's very, very scary, says Heather Lamb, spokesperson for Cole Middle School. Denver police publicly stated their belief that the school shooting was gang-related at the community meeting of September 5th of 2018, with more than 100 concerned parents in attendance. Although homicides and shootings have happened in the Cole neighborhood, none have ever gotten onto school grounds, according to Lamb. In the end, there is a balance that must be reached between the rehabilitation of young gang members and the safety of other kids in Denver. The juxtaposition is never more evident in what she sees in a child who seems tiny in a detention jumpsuit appearing in juvenile court. Sometimes you have to just remind yourself that they shot someone, Wilder says. I'm Addie Weitzel reporting, and thank you and good night.